Look where we are headed today, to Mexico. What do you know about Mexico? Did you think of their food? What about their language? Do you know what they speak? Spanish? Yeah. Do you have any friends whose families are from Mexico? Well, if you can't think of much, we are going to learn more about our neighboring country, and this book is going to take us through the alphabet from A to Z and show us something about Mexico for every letter. We're going to start with a map first, though. So let's go ahead and pull that up. And it says it in Spanish. We're going to do quite a bit in Spanish, but don't worry, I'll always tell you what it means in English. And right here it says, "Hola, ¿qué pasa?" That means "Hola, ¿qué pasa?" means hello, hola, and ¿qué pasa is like what's happening, what's going on, okay? So Spanish is the main language of Mexico, and Mexico is in North America. It's just south of the United States. It touches several of our states like Arizona, New Mexico, Texas. More than 101 million people live in Mexico, which ranks 11th in world population. So on the map, you can see right here where there's North America and South America, and you can see the US, and it basically starts from North America and almost goes all the way down to South America, right down through here where it's missing this connection. That's Central America. We're going to go there in some other weeks, but here is Mexico. Okay, it's pretty big. There's a lot of different areas. And one of the areas we're going to talk about that looks like a thumb sticking out is right here. So there's water on both sides. Keep that in mind. Okay, that's where Mexico is. And we're going to start with letter A and show you what they want us to see in Mexico. Let me turn. A is for art. Look at that artwork. The colors and patterns of Mexican art are bright and bold. Mural artists turn walls into huge paintings. Some Mexican art looks like Spanish art because Spain ruled Mexico from the early 1500s to 1821. Other Mexican art looks like the art of the peoples living in Mexico before the Spaniards came. So before the Spaniards, these native peoples included the Aztecs, the Zapotecs, and the Mayas. We're going to say those three words throughout the book. So we have Aztecs, Zapotecs, and Mayas. Those were the ancient Mexicans before the Spaniards came. And sometimes Mexican art mixes these different art styles. B is for the butterfly. In autumn, these monarch butterflies fly thousands of miles all the way up from Canada to the United States and the mountains of central Mexico. The butterflies cover they cover pine trees and fir trees, and sometimes they even break these limbs of the trees because when you get so many butterflies on there, all of that weight can break the limbs. Crazy because butterflies are so small. There's thousands of them. So B is for butterfly. C is for Cinco de Mayo. That means the 5th of May. Like on the calendar, okay? So Cinco de Mayo means the 5th of May. It's also the name of a festival held on that day. People dance in these colorful costumes to celebrate a great day of victory in 1862. And that year, Mexican soldiers fought the French invaders and won, even though the French had twice as many soldiers. Down here it says another important national holiday is Independence Day, which is September 16th. For Mexico, it's September 16th, and it marks the day in 1821 when Mexico won its freedom from Spain. That's Cinco de Mayo. D is another holiday, and it says it in English. It says Day of the Dead or Dia de los Muertos. Have you heard that? So Day of the Dead is observed on November 2nd. Families have picnics, they plant flowers, and they leave gifts at the graves of the loved ones. So you see how these are like grave sites? And they leave flowers, and there's some candles. Sometimes there's gifts because Dia de los Muertos is Day of the Dead. It's right around Halloween, but for here, it's a remembrance and a celebration of all of the people that came before us that they're going to honor their, their lives. So cookies in the shape of skulls are a traditional Day of the Dead treat. So Dia de los Muertos is D, and E is for one of the types of foods that you probably thought of. E is for enchilada. It doesn't really have an English equivalent, but enchiladas are a favorite food in Mexico. Meat, cheese, beans, they're all rolled up in this tortilla and then covered with this sauce, like a tomato sauce. They actually, in the back of this book, they have a recipe that you can follow to make tortillas. And you could also probably, if you wanted to get this book, you could look at that recipe. But I'm sure if you wanted to try it out, you could also find some yummy tortilla recipes online. Not tortillas, enchiladas. I think I want tortillas or chips. So F is for flag. Here's their flag. Now, the green in Mexico's flag stands for hope. The white is for religion and purity, and the red stands for unity and the blood of Mexicans who died fighting for freedom. In the middle of the flag is the country's coat of arms. I'm going to zoom in on that and I'm going to read about it in a minute. Do you see that? That looks like an eagle, and it's standing on a cactus. And then what does it have in its mouth and in its talons? A snake. Okay? So down below, it says the ancient Aztecs had a hummingbird god. This god told the people that a sign would let them know where to build their new city. They saw an eagle sitting on a cactus and eating a snake, and they knew this was the sign. The Aztecs began to build the capital of their nation on that spot in 1325. It is now Mexico City, the capital of Mexico, and this is what told them. This was the sign that told them to build that city there. So that's why it's on their flag. G is for the guitar. Oh, wrong side. G is for the guitar. And in Spanish, I'm not very good at rolling my R's, but it's for the guitarra. It's a big part of traditional Mexican music. The guitarists lead popular dance bands called mariachi bands. And these large bass guitars, look how large that one is, with the round back is called a guitarrón. So guitar, guitarrón. Guitarra, guitarrón. So it's kind of just a little difference of how to say those two words to refer to the normal size guitar and the larger guitar. H is for hacienda. Now this is a large house in the country. So you have the city, and when you step out into the country, you tend to have larger houses. This large house is a hacienda, and they often have this patio or a garden space in the center of the house. In the country and small towns, houses traditionally were built with adobe, which is a kind of brick made from mud and straw. I is not for ice cream, even though I'm sure they have some wonderful ice cream, but I is for Spanish word iglesia. That means church. So iglesia, a church or iglesia stands at the center of every Mexican community. Religion is so important to the Mexican people that a church was often the first building to be built in a town. Most of the people in Mexico are Roman Catholic. And down here it says that Spaniards brought the Roman Catholic religion when they came to Mexico in the early 1500s. Before that, the native peoples had their own religions, and some Mexicans still practice some of those native religions. H. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going backwards. J, H-I-J. Yeah, we're going to J. J is for a person, and it says Juarez. Benito Juarez is a hero to many Mexicans. He was a Zapotec native and the first person to be elected president of Mexico. He was president from 1861 until he died in 1872. And that is a picture of Benito Juarez, their first president. See if I go the right way. K. K is for something that I did not know about before I read this book. It's for a kit fox. So, desert covers much of northern Mexico. So that northern part of Mexico has a lot of desert. Think about it. It's right up against Texas, and Texas has a lot of desert, right? And Arizona. So that northern part has a lot of desert where the kit fox lives. Besides the kit fox, you'll see prairie dogs, lizards, snakes, and scorpions in that part of Mexico. Off to the side, it also says it wants us to know about wildlife in other areas in Mexico because it's so big. So there are rainforests, and in the rainforest, you have monkeys and parrots and jaguars and tapirs. In the mountains, you have coyotes and wolves and deer and mountain lions. And there's also the oceans around Mexico on both sides that we talked about. You have gray whales, tuna, swordfish, tropical fish, shrimp, manatees, and pelicans. So a ton of wildlife in Mexico depending on where you visit. L is for a lantern. Have you seen these before? So during the Christmas season in Mexico, the night is lit up with lanterns or luminarias. People first made these special lights by setting a candle in sand inside a paper bag. Many luminarias are still made this way, but now they are also made of pottery and metal, which is a little bit safer than putting a lit candle with fire inside of a paper bag, right? So they do that inside of these type of containers of pottery and metal so that it doesn't catch on fire. M. M is for the magical word called money. Every country has money, right? So Mexico's unit of money is the peso. You know that. The peso comes in both coins and bills. 1 peso equals 100 centavos. Centavos are cents. Same with us. We have 100 cents makes up $1. That's similar to how this is. You can see some of the faces on their money. And N is for the nopal cactus. Now, the nopal cactus, this is just one of over 1,000 different types of cactuses in Mexico. It has these thick, flat leaves, and it grows in the Sonora Desert of northwestern Mexico. Look at all of those pointy parts and the flowers that bloom. Mexicans cut these nopal leaves into tiny pieces and they fry them. Fried nopal and scrambled eggs makes a good breakfast. Do you want to eat a cactus with your eggs for breakfast? I think I'll pass. I don't like trying new foods. Speaking of foods, let's go on to O in the outdoor markets. Now, this looks more delicious than eating a cactus, in my opinion. An outdoor market or a mercado sounds like market, can be found in almost every Mexican town. You'll find everything from brightly painted wooden toys to pots, clothing, fruits, and vegetables. And here is the food section. P is for piñata. I'm sure you've all tried to hit a piñata at like a birthday party, right? So at birthdays and other celebrations in Mexico, a piñata hangs from the ceiling. It is filled with candies, maybe some small toys. One at a time, children are blindfolded, twirl around in circles, and then each child swings hard at the piñata with a stick. And when the piñata breaks, the treats spill out. Don't spin too many times. You might completely miss. Q. Q is for the quetzal. The quetzal. The rainforests of southern Mexico are beautiful, but the rainforests are home to many birds and animals, including this guy right here, the quetzal. This bird was important to the Aztecs. They used quetzal feathers as money for trading, and they also decorated their clothes with these brightly colored plumes. Look at the tail of this bird, and they're supposed to be so brightly colored. I would love to see one of these out in the rainforest and to be able to take a picture of one of these. That would make my day. R. R is for the Rio Grande. Heard of that here in the US? Okay. That's because this is also in the US. So it's in Mexico and it's in the US, and the rivers are long, and it's also on our border. So let's hear about it. This wide, shallow, slow-moving river forms nearly 2/3 of the border between Mexico and the US. So that's why you've probably heard about it, because the river is also in the US. Early Spanish explorers first named this river the Rio Grande. Rio means river, grande means big, so it means the big river. Americans still call it that, but Mexicans now call it the Rio Bravo, or Bold River. At the bottom, it says the Rio Grande begins in the San Juan Mountains of Colorado. The river is 1,885 miles long, and it empties into the Gulf of Mexico at Brownsville, Texas. S is for serape. This thing. Serapes are made of heavy wool, and they're worn over your shoulders, and they can also be used as blankets on cool nights. It kind of looks like, like a poncho, but it has a thick material to it. Other traditional Mexican clothing includes sombrero. You can see that up here. Sombreros have that wide brimmed hat. A chaleco is a woven vest. So if you see someone wearing a vest, it's most likely a chaleco. And then there's china poblano. It's a decorated skirt, a blouse, and a sash for traditional dances. So at some of the festivals, you might see these traditional dances, and it's called a china poblano. T is for, here we go. I talked about it earlier, tortilla. Woohoo! A tortilla is a flat, thin, round bread made from either wheat flour or cornmeal. Mexicans use it to scoop up food, or they wrap it around ground beef, cheese, and refried beans. Other Mexican favorite dishes. You have the chili, which is a soup or a sauce made from hot chili peppers. You have tamales, which is a cornmeal dough filled with spiced meat and steamed in a corn husk. And you have mole, which is a thick, dark, spicy sauce, and it's often flavored with chocolate and ground nuts. A few different foods that you can try while visiting Mexico. All right, we're going to make this hands-on. You ready? I need you to get your mouths warmed up, start talking, because we are going to count. U is for uno. Uno means number one. I'm sure you guys all knew that, right? Do you know how to keep counting in Spanish? Let's try it. Ready? Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, siete, ocho, nueve, and 10. Woohoo! Let's count to 10. Can you do it backwards? 10, nueve, ocho, siete, seis, cinco, cuatro, tres, dos, uno. Good job. All right, V. V is for the Virgin of Guadalupe. Now, there's a lot to say here. You can also call it Virgen de Guadalupe. Many homes in Mexico have a picture or a statue of the Virgen, or the Virgin of Guadalupe. She is known as Mary, the mother of Jesus. Catholics in Mexico believe the Virgin of Guadalupe keeps a loving eye on them. And the Lady of Guadalupe. Okay, here's some more information. Juan Diego was an Aztec farmer. One morning in 1531, Juan heard a noise. He heard a woman call his name. She said she was the mother of all who lived in this land, and she wanted a church built on the nearby hill. She showed Juan a bush of beautiful roses. He'd never seen roses growing there before. He picked some and put them inside his cloak, or a tilma, and he was going to go show the bishop. When he opened the tilma, he found a beautiful painting of a lady on the cloak. Today, Juan's cloak and its picture of the Virgin of Guadalupe hangs in a church that was built next to that hill. A little bit of religious background and history from Mexico right there. We're going to move on to W and X are on the same page, and W is for a warrior. This warrior, in 1502, a warrior or soldier named Moctezuma II became the leader of the Aztec people. While he was emperor, the Aztecs controlled more than half of the area of what is now Mexico, and Mexico is huge. They controlled half of that. Aztec emperor and warrior Moctezuma II. And then X is for a lake. And I'm not too familiar with exactly how to say this lake, but I think it's Xochimilco? Xochimilco. Visitors come from all over to enjoy the beauty of Lake Xochimilco. They ride in these brightly colored boats, and they glide through a maze of colorful island gardens. So how do you have island gardens in the middle of a lake? So long ago, the Aztecs, they covered these raft reeds with mud, and then they planted fruits and vegetables and flowers on them that are inside this lake. And over the years, the plants' roots grew deep down into the lake, and these rafts formed these islands, which are still gardens today. That's a really neat thing to possibly look up and Google some pictures of this lake. Look, Lake Xochimilco. Okay. Y is for the Yucatan Peninsula, right here. The Yucatan Peninsula reaches like that big thumb into the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea. Its white, sandy beaches and these ancient Mayan ruins draw tourists by the thousands. Tulum and Chichen Itza, right here, are two of the famous ruins. This is the picture of that steep pyramid on the Yucatan Peninsula at Chichen Itza. Now, it's a little bit of a drive from the beaches to go see this, but it's definitely worth it. Um, and letter Z. Z is for the Zocalo. The Zocalo is a public square in the center of most villages. Towns and cities in Mexico, so there's a ton of villages and towns and cities that have Zocalos, and people go there to visit, to hear speeches, to celebrate special occasions, or to go to church. So when they say a square, it means all of the buildings form this empty space around a square, okay? Now that's it. That's Z. We're going to head back to this one real quick because I really like this area. The beaches and the ruins in the Yucatan. So this is kind of the Cancun area, the famous Riviera Maya. It's such a great destination to visit. So thanks for taking this trip today. I'm Cassie, and next week our adventure heads to another country very close to Mexico, just south of it, that also speaks Spanish. We're going to Guatemala. Do you know where that's at? Well, we will see you there and we'll learn all about Guatemala next week.